You might think of them as innocent little pills, but new research has found Aussies are overusing and misusing antibiotics.
Antimicrobials are drugs that kill microbes, and by that we mean viruses, fungi and bacteria. Antibiotics are that subset of antimicrobials that kill bacteria.
Australia ranks 7th highest in the developed world for antimicrobial prescriptions. 21.8 million were dispensed last year alone, and 1 in 3 Aussies had at least one script for antibiotics in 2022.
One of the problems we have in Australia is our culture seems to expect an answer in the form of a pill or medicine for any illness, and we want often an instant result. In countries such as the Netherlands, Sweden, they use half the amount of antibiotics we do in people and yet have as good health results.
We're even using them for illnesses they can't treat, like colds and flus.
The message about not taking antibiotics for viruses has been lost. If you took an antibiotic for a virus, you've wasted your money, you've wasted your time, and you put yourself at risk of the side effects.
And our over-reliance has worrying consequences. Bugs mutating so much that common drugs can no longer kill them, becoming superbugs.
Superbugs have a bulletproof vest on where the antibiotics bounce off. And that's a real problem if you're seriously ill.
The biggest danger is generating more antibiotic resistance than we can cope with. That will stop you being treated by a GP because the antibiotics they have access to won't work.
Hundreds of Aussies already die from drug-resistant infections each year. And the World Health Organisation estimates superbugs could kill 10 million people annually by 2050.
We need to not overuse antibiotics, because if we do, we're likely to be back in the 1920s with no antibiotic that works for serious infections.
So can we squash the superbugs before they squash us?
Jacob Dyer fell victim to a drug-resistant superbug, and he's here to tell us his story. Jacob, what happened?
Hey, so in March this year, I got a small scratch from my puppy on one of my legs, and 48 hours later, I found myself in the ICU. They gave me an initial dose of antibiotics and then put me into surgery because I was getting really, really unwell really quickly. And so they took me into surgery and I woke up 3 days later from a coma. While I was in the coma, I had a heart attack. My liver, kidneys, stomach, most of my vital organs failed, and the doctors and nurses were pretty sure that I wouldn't make it.
Wow! From a scratch from a puppy.
Yeah, not even a centimetre long, just like a tiny one from mucking around with her on the couch.
I mean, I don't think I've ever heard a story like that before. I understand you went to a GP initially, which makes perfect sense. That's what I would do. And you weren't able to get an appointment, and that's how you ended up at the hospital. Looking back on that, I mean, what a fork in the road that was.
Yeah, I was really lucky that I went to the hospital when I did. By the time I got to the emergency department, I could barely stand up, and they rushed me straight into the resuscitation. But yeah, in the morning I felt like I had a bit of a sore throat, a bit of a head cold maybe, and then by lunchtime I was kind of struggling to stay conscious.
Jacob, it turns out you had a superbug. How hard was it for doctors to treat you? Did they give you antibiotics to start with?
Yeah, so when I came into the emergency department, they gave me a kind of initial antibiotic, but that wasn't helping, and my vital signs started slipping really quickly. And then I woke up 3 days later in the ICU.
Jacob, that sounds terrifying. What's your message then about the importance of using antibiotics correctly?
It's that we need to reserve antibiotics for situations where they're actually needed. There are very few antibiotics that would be effective to help me because infections that I got were resistant to antibiotics. And that resistance builds up because people use antibiotics for things like a head cold that isn't necessarily something that they're evidenced to work for. And so it kind of trains the bugs, I guess, in responding to the antibiotics, and they become stronger and stronger against them.
How's your health now, Jacob? Have you fully recovered?
It's on the improve, but not fully recovered, no. So I've still got some heart problems, still a lot of problems with nerve damage. One of the kind of key side effects of sepsis is it takes the blood away from your arms and legs, and so it can result in amputation or nerve damage. So I kind of can't feel my fingers and can't feel my toes and can't move one of my feet properly.
Well, you've been through a hell of a ringer, mate. All the best with it from here. It sounds like you're in a bit of a fight, but it's a really important message that you've shared with us tonight, so thanks for that.
Yeah, no, thanks for giving me the opportunity.